want to hear what you got to say. What'd you think about game one? Like aside from the atmosphere, just the game that was
Yeah.
played. Like, what was your thoughts on game one?
I just think there's a lot of room to grow, right? You look at Kevin Herter, I expected big things from him in game one, and he came out and really got his ass benched. He was not effective in any way. And it just kind of felt like, I don't know if this is how it felt to you guys, but it just felt like as calm, quote unquote, as they were and relaxed. Like Mike Brown said, all of the early shots felt just like there was saran wrap over the rim. It just felt like all of the early shots weren't going in, and then that kind of tightened things up. So Kevin Herter didn't play well. Keegan didn't play much and did not play well. Sabonis, I think, took 1 3 that missed. So between those guys, they all went 0 for 9. I think there's room to grow there. There's room to grow with Kevin in the floater. Our guy Willie Z Stats, he comes through with this with where the pockets of the defense are to be exploited. I think he should be able to get busy. And I think, like you said before game one, Kenny, Malik Monk is a problem. He is like a hot knife through butter in that defense. I don't know that you can contain him. I don't know that anyone's quick enough to stop him around the rim. And then, like, secondarily, I don't think it's a big deal that Sabonis is not going to have big offensive performances. And I don't expect him to. I think,
Really?
I think that the way that the Warriors want to play him is to take him out and let everybody else. And I don't know how they're going to change that with Fox going off for 38. But the way that they're collapsing on him for those dribble handoffs, you see that is they really want to allow space for the outside shooters, which is crazy to me. So you saw Kevon Looney and Draymond sort of collapse around him, stay straight up, and make things really difficult for him in the paint. I don't see that changing a ton unless he's getting easy putbacks. So I think his point prop is 20. I don't think he gets 20 points throughout the course of the series. If he does, that's phenomenal. But I see him more as a rebounder and a facilitator.
Yeah, and if I'm looking at his numbers, I think the biggest thing is I'll circle is the 17 shot attempts. If he's not scoring, he won't get to 17 again. He'll stick around 10 to 12 shots, and that opens up another 5 to 7 shots for others. And I think that's a big deal. And you bring up the Monk point. I think the crazy thing that what we're seeing is that when Monk and Fox are playing together, because the Warriors don't have huge size, and it's not like Klay Thompson's going to back you down, right? So you can go with Monk and Fox at the same time, and they're so fast, both of them, and the Warriors have no interior, like they have no way to block a shot. So if you're like basically doing dueling banjos and they're taking turns going at you, I don't know that we're going to see another 30-point game from Fox. I mean, from Monk. But specifically because of the free throws. Like, I don't know if he's going to go to the free throw line 14 times again, but it's possible because that's exactly how
Get to the
he's
basket.
attacking. And that's the design. Touch paint, touch paint, touch paint, spray three, and then Sabonis. Wow. That's their identity. And it's tough.
And with so much attention being put on Sabonis from the Warriors on the defensive end, I mean, I'm like rewatching the game again. There's nothing in the paint. And like Malik is like, once they get by the initial defender, it's over. It's on and popping. Like there's nobody that's gonna stop him because a lot of times with Domas, he's up towards the perimeter a little bit more because he's trying to do the dribble handoff or the pick and roll. And they're so focused on stopping Sabonis, they are just leaving the paint wide open. Malik took advantage of it. Fox took advantage of it. There's nothing there. And these are the things that I talk about when I say, that's not going to change.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to change. I agree with you guys. I think they want to take Sabonis away. They're going to continue to focus on him. And a team that already has no rim protection, the lane's going to be even more wide open because they're so locked in on Sabonis.
And what if you start that in quarter one instead of like quarter 2.5, right? It didn't feel like they started in that manner. Malik Monk and Fox both driving, getting to the cup early. You can get guys in foul trouble with like Draymond, Kevon Looney. You can tell he's going to get exhausted fast. Just their ability to get to the lane and have all kinds of these, like this package that you don't really have any ability to stop.
And to your point, that felt like a halftime adjustment.
Yep.
Because it felt like they got really, really aggressive in the second half. James, you mentioned this a minute ago, 2:30, 2:29 in 28 seconds to be exact. If we mentioned his name, it was in passing, but you said during the commercial break, we really need to talk about Harrison Barnes.
Ooh, Harrison. Harrison came out aggressive. He did. He took you said before the game, he's going to take this game personally. He's going to take this series personally. He does not want to be blamed for the woes of the Warriors. And he came out, had a couple of steals. I thought he was going to have a bigger game offensively than he did. Kind of went quiet. But man, that big ball step back where you're like, oh no, Harrison. Oh yes, Harrison. Clutch.
That was big time. I was one of the oh no's. I was like, no, what are we doing? Okay. I couldn't even. I just couldn't even say nothing after that shot.
That was like a sound effect shot.
It was.
But the point will take. I mean, Harrison wants this.
He had 3 steals in like the first 5 minutes of the game.
Crazy.
But he ended up 9 points and 4 rebounds in the second half. I didn't even have him as one of my 6 quick thoughts because he hadn't done anything up until the point. And I thought Alex Len was so impactful. And then just the way that, first of all, the big step back, that was incredible. Yeah. But the rebounds, this team out rebounding the Warriors was not really expected. And then his post game, like I've known Harrison for a long time. And like I've interviewed that guy a bunch of times, whether like one-on-one or like in scrum settings or in like at the table. I thought he was fighting back emotion in post game. And I like, to be honest, like it made, as someone who was asking him a question, like the quiver in his voice made you emotional. You're like, oh wow, this means a lot. Like the way that he has been blamed for what happened in Golden State, the way that, like I talked about it, he's literally like the drummer before Ringo Starr on the Beatles. Like no one remembers that guy's name, but Ringo wasn't the original Fab Four. And they just left him out and acted like it was his fault. They lost one of the championships. Warriors fans have blamed him. You know, you hear, oh, well, what about the 0 stat line in Game 7? Man, the dude had to defend LeBron James. Right. Like you left a 23 or 24-year-old kid defending LeBron James. Now we're seeing 30-year-old Harrison Barnes. He's mature. He's been through it. He's spent the last 7 years trying to get back to the playoffs, and he delivered. Like he talked about, like talking to Jason Williamson, Bobby Jackson, and Doug Christie, and Vlade Divac, and Peja Stojakovic about the culture of Sacramento and what this means to everybody. He talked about like how just impressive the fan base has been throughout the whole time, even when they were bad, how supportive they've been. But like we've heard this, maybe Harrison will go back to the Warriors this summer on like a cheap $5 million a year contract.
Oh, no chance.
No,
no chance.
That ain't happening for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's not taking that less money, but
just like, why would he want to go back?
Burn him down.
Yeah.
I think there's real heat with him and Draymond. I don't know if Draymond cares, but I think Harrison is not. I'm looking at it from the outside looking in. I think Harrison got real heat for Draymond, or he wouldn't. At the very least, he wouldn't want to play with him again.
And he was a young guy on that team.
That fan base can't decide who to blame for losing the title.
Yeah.
First, it was officials because of the Draymond suspension. And now it's Harrison Barnes. Like they've got like 10 excuses instead of just going, Ty Lue made some adjustments and we got beat.
Your Dubs be crying,
bro.
I know we're the worst, aren't we?
The worst.
We're the worst.
I was excited for him. Like to see it, like to see him.
I was excited when that 3 went in.
Wasn't the defense on Curry some of the best you've seen? Like as soon as you see him set a screen and everyone's rushing up to get up on that screen. They're switching really effectively. They're getting into his body. They're not sagging off at all, which you see even teams that know Steph Curry is that man. You need to keep him off the 3-point line. The defense on him on the perimeter was super, super impressive. I think he had 4 points after the first quarter. He got going, obviously, and like he always does and can against everyone. But I just thought that perimeter defense was some of the best from a Kings team that everybody has been maligning for their lack of defense.
They were working, man.
Working. Harrison was a part of that. That was what made me think of it. It was Fox, Harrison, multiple guys switching. I'm like, man, this is impressive.
And you talked about how aware they were. I mean, we were sitting up there watching the game, and if it was a turnover or a rebound, and Steph Curry's got the bars, like, stay up. Stay up.
Yeah.
Like, If he goes
Don't let
by you
him-
for the
yeah.
two,
They were
cool.
communicating. You could
Yep.
see them as they're coming down. Everyone's pointing at Steph. Don't let him shoot the transition
Mhm.
3 from 30 feet.
Mhm.
And someone would go right up on him, and then someone else would be right there.
hmm
Yeah, I thought it was impressive.
They
'Cause-
recovered for each other really well.
Yeah.
Because the thing about it, and you could have all the game planning you want, they're great. They can knock down the shot anyway. We saw that a bunch of times. But they're predictable in that they're always going to go for the thirsty three. They're always going to go for that. So my whole thing with the Warriors all the time, and I'm not an NBA coach or whatever, is I would give them the lane every single time. Like if you're going to beat me by scoring 52 pointers, I'll tip my hat. I don't believe you're going to do it. I believe you may go to the couple times, but you're going to revert back to who you are and what you want to do. And you want the thirsty three.
And we saw that because we talked about, okay, Steph's on the bench. Warriors are up, like 7?
They have 8.
8?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the time where you need to make the move.
Mhm.
And Steph comes in with like 9:20. So he comes in a little early. They call that timeout. And we looked at each other and said, what is he going to do? He's going to shoot a 3 immediately. That's what he wants to do, is try to get them back into the game, try to take the heart and soul. And that those threes are the way that they emotionally do it. And sometimes the only knock that you can put on Steph is that he's like a little too aggressive about that.
Mm.
It makes him a lot, but
Yeah, but they're like I talked.
some
about
of them are kind of dumb.
They're-
Like they are.
well,
Some
the
of them are
corner-
dumb.
the cor-
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That corner 3 was so silly.
I mean, he shot a moonshot just to like flip it up
Mhm.
there, and just to show you. And their threes are demoralizing.
Yep.
They are. When they hit one again, like how many times in that game did like Clay just like quarter step back, boom, it's gone.
Yep.
And you're like, I can't believe how fast that was. And the Kings are right there.
Mhm.
But again, we talked about this before. The Kings didn't have a great game for who they are.
No.
They still somehow found a way to win. But points in the paint, 60 for the Kings, 44 for the Warriors. Second chance points, 21 for the Kings, 16 for the Warriors. Fast break points, 12 for the Kings, 9 for the Warriors. They beat them in almost every category. And then to point out what we keep talking about, like all of the Warriors numbers are exactly what they were during the regular season. They averaged 29.4 assists per game. They had 31.
Yep.
Mhm.
All of their numbers
Only
look identical.
18 assists for the Kings, which I thought was fascinating.
And that's where you look. Like there are so many ways for the
Mhm.
Kings to do more.
Yeah.
And the Warriors are who they are. And that doesn't mean that the Kings are going to beat them in 4. Doesn't mean that they're going to win the series. But the Warriors have to be something that they just haven't been. And they may not be able to be anymore if they're going to win the series.
The assist number boils down to, obviously they missed so many threes,
Yes.
particularly the starters. But then that second half, De'Aaron and Malik, they're going to the
Yep.
basket. It's one man's ball. I'm
Yep.
going to the basket, and I'm getting something out of this.
Yeah, and I think that just shows the Warriors were operating in many categories at like their average season averages, or
Yeah.
their average for sort of their reign, right?
Mhm.
30 assists a game is what they want to do. And the Kings have a lot to grow to get to the median of what they've been doing for the season. So that to me is where, yeah, Wiggins is obviously a factor in terms of how much room he has to grow. That's the one player that I could say, yeah, he would have made more than 1 for 8 threes. And that's super meaningful. But there's like 6 categories for the
He's-
Kings that they could have done better.
And then Wiggins still scored his average.
He did.
And we went over this right before you walked in. Like virtually every player's last night scored their average. Like I noticed it when we looked at Steph and Clay, like 30 and 21, that's their average. But it's true for Andrew Wiggins. It's slightly off for Jordan Poole, and it's virtually perfect for every other player who played last night.
What's the deal with Jordan's ankle?
It's
Still questionable.
I heard Sam Amick this morning say he's not breaking news, but the way he saw Jordan after game 1, he wouldn't be surprised if he didn't play tonight.
They did say he
That was the
after
Davion
shoot-
play, right? Was that
Mhm.
Jordan and Davion? That was the Davion
Yeah.
play. Okay.
The after shoot around, he started getting shots up after shoot around, and like I don't know what that means, but like testing it and seeing where it is. So and I'll also say this, like when we look at the way that this game went, we keep talking about, hey, Wiggins can be better, Wiggins peak. I don't think the Kings really game plan for Wiggins. Like
Sure.
like when I looked at I think the Kings were like, okay, we'll play it by ear, but we don't really know what he's going to look like. He was great early on. They made an adjustment, and he wasn't great. I mean, he wasn't good at all in the second half. I mean, he had the big block, but offensively, he was almost a non-factor in the second half. And it's because, number one, I think he ran out of gas. But number two, I think the Kings made an adjustment. And like, if Wiggins is going to beat you, he's going to beat you. Like, if that's why you lose.
He's still impactful defensively, in my opinion.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Like he nearly had a chase down on
Kevin Herter.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Nowhere. I thought he was going to get it.
Like
too.
it absolutely looked like he was going to get it.
Yeah.
And didn't. But he's like Andrew Wiggins is tremendous. It's just such a tough spot for him and arguably the team to like, hey, it turns out that this team we're playing in the first round of the playoffs really good. That's why they finished 3 slots better. We're going to need you to be that guy you were last year.
Yeah.
And
like in game 1.
Yeah, you're going to need you to be the guy you were in the 3 games in the first 12 days of the season where he played really, really well against Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a tough spot after being off for 2.5, 3 months or whatever it was.
Do you think Wiggins is still on a minutes restriction tonight?
I don't think he was on a minutes restriction the other night, was
20
he?
to 25 is what he was supposed to play.
Well, wait a minute. What did he play?
I think he
Did
played.
he play like 30 plus, didn't he?
He played 28.
Yeah, so I'm going to say probably not. I think he'll start.
He's going to start at some point.
Mm-hmm.
James thinks he's going to start tonight. I think he's going to start Thursday.
Also say this, like everyone was like bemoaning the fact that the Kings only got 1 day off. There's only a 1 day break before the game. And a lot of other teams got 2 days.
Kind of think that's good for Andrew for
I think it's
game
good for the
plan.
Kings.
Yes, I do too.
I think it's really good for the Kings. I think that they'll have like a quick turnaround. What they did, they'll know the adjustments they need to make. But they'll come out and they're the younger team here. They're not the more experienced team for sure, but they're the younger team who can bounce back a little bit quicker. And the Warriors are still trying to integrate Wiggins. And like there are groups of players here that Wiggins hasn't played with hardly at all, or hasn't played with in months. And how does it look? What does Dante DiVincenzo look like on the bench with Gary Payton III?
Mm-hmm.
They've only played together like 6 games, and they've never been a bench backcourt. So what does that look like? And so by changing your bench rotation and changing your how are the adjustments going to work out? And I'm not sure.
Only 2 Gary Paytons, by the way.
I loved it when he called him Gary Payton III.
Yeah.
CP2.
If Wiggins starts, that Warriors bench is looking like Kuminga. And let's say Wiggins starts, Poole doesn't play. You're talking Kuminga, Payton, DiVincenzo.
You have to work like an entirely different rotation if that's what you do.
Yeah.
With Jordan Poole out. I mean, obviously that's a big factor, Jordan Poole being out. That's Dante, the scorer, is going to have to become a thing all of a sudden.